Was this in the newspaper?
No, it wasn't a newspaper. No. It was just a story he was telling.
Wow.
My wife, like, but she was working for NOPD at the time.
Oh, okay. Got it. So you got to be protocol. Police department, yeah. I know how it is. Yeah. I didn't know that PDAs. Okay, so while we wait for Glenn, I will do the introductions. Okay. Hello and welcome to our New Orleans Meets Kingston panel. My name is Shelah Moody, and I'd like to introduce, in a while I'll introduce our esteemed moderator, Delphio Marsalis, who joins us today from Virginia. He's on tour. Delphio is a Grammy-winning trombonist and producer who runs a nonprofit, the Uptown Music Theater in New Orleans. His latest work is called Shadowland. Our next guest is an acclaimed bassist who we're waiting for. His name is Glenn Brownie, who joins us from Kingston, Jamaica. Glenn started out as a member of the Brownie Bunch, a family vocal group similar to the Jackson 5 in Jamaica. Glenn has toured with Ziggy Marley, Taurus Riley, Luciano, and more. In 2006, Glenn joined forces with Delfeayo and Monty Alexander to produce the Bob Marley tribute album, Concrete Jungle. Our next guest is part of Kingston's renowned Brownie legacy. Robert Dubwise Browne is the son of Glenn Brownie, and he is also an acclaimed guitarist and producer. He has played on Grammy-winning recordings such as Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and he currently tours with Grammy-winning artist Shaggy. Robert's latest album is called Cliff Marley Tosh. Our last guest is Benny Hunter, a New Orleans-based singer, songwriter, and producer. During the pandemic, Ben produced his latest album, Soul Avenger, on his independent label. Ben defines his unique sound as Afro-Caribbean folk music. All right, thank you everybody for joining us. And I'm going to do a Bay Area tradition called, we're gonna ask the ancestors to come be with us and bless this panel. We're gonna call out the ones who's passed on. I hear it's a New Orleans tradition also. So I will call out Ed Moody, my dad, Ashe, Michael Morgan, conductor of the Oakland Symphony, who recently passed. Michael Morgan, Ashe. Okay. Delphio?
Yes.
Would you like to call out an ancestor?
Oh, sure. From this past year?
Yes.
Anybody. My great uncle Alphonse.
Uncle Alphonse, Ashe. Ben?
Andy Ween.
Andy
my
Ween.
Great grandma,
Ashe. Robert?
Yeah, my Uncle Dalton.
Uncle Dalton. Ashe. Okay. Okay, now I will turn it over to our esteemed moderator, Delphio, and when Glenn comes, we will let him in.
All right, cool. I guess we start with Jamaica. We start with Robert. What do you have going these days, musically?
A new album. I just put out an album called Cliff Marley Tosh. It's a tribute to, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Jimmy Cliff. So that's pretty much it, trying to promote the record. And, it's all independent. So you know how it is. You have to be, figuring out all the angles yourself and these things. So that's pretty much it for now.
Bob Marley, I mean, everybody knows the name of Bob Marley. Would you say he's the most important Jamaican musician as far as from an international standpoint?
Yes, I'm glad you put it that way as international standpoint, because I find a lot of artists and people here will probably not say that, but because I travel and I see, what people around the world, I like how people around the world see Bob Marley, and see Jamaica, I understand that he is the one on the international level who, people recognize more than everybody else, really.
Mm-hmm. And is there, what would you, so I believe that he studied or he had associates who helped him with the lyrics and the messaging. Are you familiar
Say
with
again,
that?
my internet is breaking up. Say that again.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, I said
Yeah.
that Bob Marley had associates. He had people around him who were helping him kind of with the messaging and writing the lyrics. So, do you know much about who they were and what they did or what their background was?
Oh no, no, that would probably be my dad. He's from that generation.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Were they the
I'm not much of a,
Rastafaris?
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm not much of a historian, so I really don't delve into,
Right. No, that's
yeah.
that's cool. And so Ben E. Hunter,
Yes, sir.
let's talk about where you were originally from.
I'm originally from New Orleans, right here in Jamaica.
Oh,
I was born in St. Anne and Robinson. I moved over here on Miro, and I'm still living in the same neighborhood. You know.
Did you move away at any point, or you've been here your whole life?
Well, yeah, pretty much the whole life. You know, I right here in NOLA. I mean, I've been around, almost been around the world, but not completely. But yeah.
Did you play some kind of sports, man?
Oh yeah. That's what my thing was. You know, high school, college, and a little pro. I played football. You know, American football,
right?
And wide receiver. So, and when I got to music, I had tried to apply the same kind of principles in sports to music. You know, even though I had never had a musical background, but it didn't really work out like I planned. You know what I'm saying? Because I say musicians are a different breed. You know, and though I grew up in New Orleans, I know a lot of great musicians. I grew up with them. You know, but I didn't really understand the really intricacies of the mindsets of musicians.
Right.
But I've learned. Yeah.
All right. Well,
okay, thank you. And our last guest has joined us, Mr. Glenn Brownie, bassist.
Glenn Brownie.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
There we go.
Hey, apologies for being late. Actually didn't remember. Hey, Delphio.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I know you don't remember me, you know.
Oh, I remember you. You look the same.
Okay, man. Well, a couple more platinums coming out here. You know?
Platinum is good. It's better than gold.
Yeah. Hey, Robbie.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we were just talking a little bit, and we were posing a question about Bob Marley and the contents of his lyrics. If he had some people around him that maybe assisted him with his messaging.
Yes, he did have people around him.
And who were they?
It was not just the people immediately around him. He looked into the situation, the political climate, the social climate of the day, and he was always on top of that, being inspired by that, you know. But there was a brother, I think his name was Tata. I met Tata, and there was another brother from the community, from his community. And they were very instrumental in writing some songs. I think one of them actually wrote No Woman No Cry and a couple other songs. They're credited on the album site. I don't remember their names now. But, you know, Bob's inspiration was just on point. Like when the argument came out that His Majesty was dead, I think it was Jacob Miller who went up to the museum where he used to live there at that time and asked him if he heard the news. He said, which news? He said, you know, hear them say His Majesty dead, man. He said, His Majesty dead. He said, yeah, big thing for the news, man. Emperor of Ethiopia died. And they said, Bob said, that's what Babylon said. And he just took up his guitar and just started playing. Jah live, children,
Yeah.
That's how that song came about. So things happening around him, or listening to his brethren's reasoning about things, there's a song. So it's very prolific that way.
And now Robert was talking about his new CD, which is it features some of the music of Marley.
Yeah.
And so is it kind of one of those things where Marley is it's almost an honor to cover his music or to give a new take on his music, or how do the Jamaicans feel, Robert, would you say, about covering Bob Marley's music?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it's always an honor because I admire the artist and I admire his works. So it's always an honor and a pleasure when, deciding to do a Bob Marley cover, And many Jamaican artists do Bob Marley songs as well, because I remember Dean Fraser, saxophonist Dean, he did a whole album, I think it was called Dean Plays Baba, or Dean Blows Baba, or something like that. And so, you have a number of Jamaican artists who cover Bob Marley, and I suppose for the same reason, because who else, which other icon is there as big as Bob that you can say, all right, I'm going to pay tribute to this awesome artist from my country, you know what I mean? So,
and then his songs covers everything worldwide, whole social structure, the whole political thing and spiritual. So,
and then for me, I don't think I would even gotten the music if it wasn't for Bob Marley and hearing his albums. And everywhere I went, when I was playing ball, I was going to school in Oklahoma, and this guy I just couldn't escape it. And he was just brought me to his room, and he had this whole catalog of music and Bob Marley, and I just couldn't escape it. You know what I mean? And his words and the power of his his consonants. It was just amazing to me.
Something I'll never forget. Let me share this with you quickly. When I used to play for Ziggy Marley, Ziggy took an American history teacher and anthropologist to Ghana. And he wanted to go meet some special tribe in the north side of Ghana. He kept talking about it. I don't remember the name of the tribe now. But when we got there and he made arrangements and he went his way, we were doing our sound check and rehearsals. When the man came back, he was like in awe. And we are saying, what is it? What happened? And he sat with us and he said he went to this little village out in the woods and met the chief. And obviously this chief had a lot of things to impart to him. But the part that blew his mind was the chief invited him after they had their discussion about the tribes and the history and the family. Said, come, let's drink palm wine. And took him into his little thatch place. He said, we play some music. And he said the man went in a little corner. It's one room, He and his family, everyone living there. Went in the corner and removed a blanket and took out a turntable, one of those gramophone things that you wind up. Took it out, dust it off and set it up, and then went into a little box and took out a Bob Marley album and took it out and said, Bob Marley. The man said he was shocked because that's the last thing he expected to see. That buying up a little battery thing and put on Bob Marley and serve him palm wine and say, Bob Marley, great man. And I said, look at that, in the most remote place, you wouldn't expect that.
Right.
Sure.
You don't get better than that, man. You can address every situation for everyone. And
it's true.
Today we look at some of the lyrics and we're saying, but look at that. Bob spoke about this 30 years ago. So, it's always an honor to do one of his songs. I'm considering one right now to cover. I did one with Monty Alexander, by the way, So Much Trouble in the World. I don't release that one, but I mean, there are so much things. As I said, So much thing to say right now.
So much.
That's so much thing to say.
So
Really
It's true.
great.
Monty Alexander, where did he studied in Jamaica? Where did he get develop his musical chops?
Well, he started here. In his words, he was always running from school. He used to go to the same school as Robert, as a matter of fact, Jamaica College. But he's always running from the school to the studio to see people like Jack in the Two, and one of your favorite trombonists also, Don Drummond. So he was always around good musicians. But I think he really developed his craft when he went to America. But what he took with him there was our roots music, which they couldn't really, they didn't understand at the time. So when he's playing mental, when he's adding that to his swing, people are saying, shit, what is this guy playing? It sounded different, you know. But yeah, so he had the foundation of the culture here and always loved jazz. And then when he went to America, I think he said Frank Sinatra gave him his biggest break, I think.
Mm.
So
Okay.
I think that's where it was developed.
So
The air. I don't think he had the formal training.
Right.
The institution here for learning music.
Well, that's the most important thing is, can you hear it? I mean, that's the reality. It's, you know.
That's me also, man. First.
Yeah.
Then I fall in love with everything else. I said, what is that they're doing? What Jacko just did?
You know that
what Ray Brown just played? And then it caused me now to go investigate and
right.
learn.
Because there's something about the different rhythms, and that's the most important thing
And
is
it can apply.
is how you play the rhythms.
Yes.
And that's not something that can be written out.
No.
You
I witnessed that for myself too. Traveling exposed me to a lot of that. Again, I went to Ghana and watched the at the time it was the Ghanaian the flute orchestra, and the band leader there was Nana Danstu. And we went into this little area where they were rehearsing. A lot of 6/4 timing going on. And they had a brother from Germany sitting there with a manuscript and his pencil. And when Nana went, they didn't count anything. Nana just went. It's all over. And 13 flutes and all the traditional instruments playing. And I'm observing this brother and he's like,
He couldn't get it.
and Nana came to me and said, that guy is going to go and tell his people that this is what we were doing. And he doesn't understand one thing we're doing.
Right.
So, you know, yeah, there are those. But I must tell you, Delphio, I don't think I ever told you this. You're one of my favorite trombonists, man.
Oh, he's got a real sweet sound, bro.
I'm telling you, yeah, man.
So
After Don Drummond, I kind of stopped listening to trombones. That was my reality. Like what I was saying, the sound didn't appeal to me.
Right.
And then what's his name again? That played at Conch Shell.
Oh, Steve Toure.
Steve Toure came to Jamaica and worked at Herbie Miller's club. And that was an eye-opener. So, wow, I didn't know that people play the trombone like that. People came back into it and said, that's how the instrument must sound, man. Really, man.
Well, that was funny in the studio because I felt, you know, the first thing is Monty Alexander's recording, Wycliffe Gordon was supposed to make it. And for whatever reason, he wasn't available. So at the last minute, Monty called me, maybe it was on a Monday, and said, hey, could you come to Jamaica on Wednesday? Yeah, okay. But I wasn't as familiar with the music as I should have been. Fortunately, we started the session late, and I listened all day. I listened to the songs and really make sure I know the words and the melody. But then I show up, and there's all these Jamaicans in the studio, and I'm playing rolling down drumming. Yeah, I'm playing, you know. So I'm like, oh Lord, but so I could feel it. I said, oh, okay. But it was not something that was foreign to me because, you know, my father, there were older musicians that when he was around that I would be able to check them out. So I understood the level of expectation. I said, so now I said,
Monty has always been talking about you. We're on the road and Monty saying, you ever check out Delphio? Cool cat, man. He's great.
Man, well, I felt the heat. I said, oh Lord. But I mean, it was a you know, it was certainly an honor for me. But I felt there was something that we played. There was one song. I think it was you actually. We played one song. There was one song that we played. Maybe it was War, and you came up and you were like, "Yeah, man."
I heard this song and the feel of it, man. Yeah.
I see. That's the greatest compliment I've ever received.
That's the vibe. The vibe.
Oh, because you know, to me, you're coming into someone else's house or to their backyard and as a guest, and you know, for me, I wanted to represent correctly.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much about, you know, how can I show off or be flashy, but how can I really represent what this music is?
That's the mistake a lot of people make. They want to show how much they know and how fast they can do it, instead of checking what is really needed at the time.
And it was
the culture.
There was one song that I never got the rhythm right on.
Which one was that?
Is it Simmer Down? How does the beginning of Simmer Down?
Yeah, that's
Is that what the rhythm is?
Yeah.
I kept saying, yeah. I was playing. Yeah. And that was a time when I should have written it out. I just could not, for some reason.
Yeah.
And I said,
where the pickup was.
I said, sorry, man. But so let's talk. So Robert, how was it growing up with your dad and he's playing, and did he help you out, or was he just like, no, figure it out on your own?
Oh man, that is always to help and show. He's the type of person who, you know, once he sees the interest, he's going to try and steer you in the right direction. You know, I was actually playing drums first as a youngster, and drums is his first instrument also. And everything, you know, he always encourages and, you know, shows what to practice and stuff like that. And when I switched to guitar, it was no different. You know, it's like, okay, you need to do this, that. And as far as theory, because I wasn't formally trained or anything either, so like whatever basic theory I picked up at a young age was taught to me by him. And you know, that's it. Growing up now, the full influence came when I used to visit, because I never grew up with that. So, but my brother and I have a twin brother who plays bass like that. And we used to visit him regularly, and we used to go down to the house, and the Brownie bunch, father and my uncles, were always rehearsing. So that at a young age, I believe, was like the biggest influence on my brother and myself to see, you know, Daddy and Uncle Dalton, Uncle Clevie, Uncle Danny, Uncle Noel, you know, everybody in the living room playing as a unit, as a band, you know, just, you know, playing beautiful music all the time, you know, and when they're not playing, they're singing. When they're not singing, they're in the studio creating or something like that. So that, I believe, was, you know, one of the biggest influences in my life to be a musician. Because and what I never thought of this before. What made it so great was, it's not like it's one musician like that. He's not just a bass player alone. It's like you're seeing a whole band. So you're seeing bass, drum, guitars, keyboards, and they're all singing as well. So I believe that growing up was, and as I said, to answer your question, Daddy was always encouraging. And, as I said, once he sees the interest is going to steer in the right direction and help you to develop that skill, And if he can't help you, find somebody who can and are pointing in a direction. So go check out this, go check out that. Most of the jazz cats I listen to now, guitar-wise, and still love today is because of him. You say, yo, you listen to Lee Retton, you listen to Aldinola, Pat Metheny, all of these people were introduced to me by my father. So, big encouragement and influence. He never turned down a youngster that looks interested in the craft.
What surprised me with Robert Dubwise is I had him part as a drummer. When I used to play on the North Coast and they used to come down there to visit on weekends, he would stand by the drummer. He had a very good drummer. Every opportunity he gets, he's sitting around the drum. Then I said, cool, really nice, he's a drummer. But one day, the rehearsals, he'd tell me about one day we were rehearsing in the living room. So we all took a break. And normally they go around and do what they do. He wasn't interested that day in going around the drum. And I was puzzled. And that's when I discovered that, yeah, I like the drum, but his eyes went like guitar. He was watching his uncle play guitar. I said, what? Go play guitar. Guitar, you know? Go play guitar, man. History. As he said, what I couldn't show him, I found the best at it. And so, check this, man. I remember checking out a musician to teach both of them. And she claimed to have what degree from Royal School of Music. And I said, there's a piano in the house. I said, want to play a song that you like? And she said to me, bring the music. I said, no, just go and play anything that you like. And the woman couldn't do it in a Delfeayo. Benz, the woman refused to go and play until I give her a piece of music. And I just said to her, you can't teach my children music. Because if you can't just go and sit and just have fun doing something, I don't care if Mary had a little lamb. I don't little bo peep, whatever you want to play. Just show me that, okay, here is something I do. I have to give you a sheet of music because I understand that. Okay, we can read, it's a communication. You can't teach my children if you can't have fun with something that you play every day. And to have all this accreditation from Royal School, it would mean that you would have studied even some classical piece at length. Even play that.
Yeah,
It don't work like that for me.
So, Ben E. Hunter, what
Yes, sir.
would you say is, you have to say the most important thing about music for you?
Say that again?
I'm asking Ben the most important thing about music to you is what?
Well, that it be played well, and who have an understanding of what to do and how to do it, And for me, it's the lyrics, it have to have a message. We grew up with all these great musicians and songs and songwriters. And for me, when I heard Bob Marley sing jamming, and I didn't understand patois at the time, but he wasn't, his patois wasn't that strong, but I bought the album. And when he said, Jah seed is in Mount Zion and he rules all creation, I was like, this is not something I've heard. And it's not no regular music, you know what I'm saying? This brother here is coming from a whole different perspective, And it just got into me. And then when I realized that New Orleans during the 40s, 50s, and 60s had an influence in the reggae music because Miami and New Orleans radio station was able to reach Jamaica, and hearing Fats Domino, Big Dave Bartholomew was like everybody loved him in Jamaica, and King Yellowman you sing Blueberry Hill in his show,
Yeah.
So, and for me, I was like, well, there's no New Orleans artist here representing. So, me as a Rastafarian, that's like, I think it's my duty to come up whatever time it takes to, make that point clear. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I did with my new project, Soul Avenger. I work with Jamaican producers based over Babylon, and we recorded down at Jack Ruby's studio in Ocherias. And with some of the great musicians and singers, and to make that New Orleans Jamaican connection come to light, and that's what we did with this project.
Oh, that's killing. That's killing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you write your music? Do you write it out, or you just have the chords, or what do you?
Well, I just picked up a guitar some time ago and learned the chords, and the songs just come. I mean, I feel like it's just like, you open yourself to a certain energy, and you be like that place where it comes through, So I don't sit down and say, I have to write this song today. I'm gonna have to write a song. Have the song come through experience. That's how I'll just let it flow. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not a trained musician. I don't have no musicians in my family, no singers. I'm the only person. And when I started, people were looking at me like, were you crazy? You know what I'm saying? You never played no music. You never did. Yeah, but I grew up around great music and musicians. I mean, I grew up in Treme, and at the time there was a cab stand across the street. It played music 24/7, and the New Orleans groove, and from the second line music to the Indian chant, all of them had certain rhythm. And then my first trip to Jamaica, I realized we weren't that different. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it was easy, man, for me. I said for me, for sure.
Mm. Robert, how do you write your music? You write anything out? You write the chords out, or?
No, I play. My technique now is it's kind of I'll compose a track, a rhythm track, like a chord or progression. Let's say that, and I'll play whatever melody come to me randomly. I'll just play and do a take of that and do 2 takes of that, and then listen back to it. And whatever grabs me from it, then I'll take bits and pieces and then structure stuff, but not physically write out stuff. I'll play stuff, record it, listen it, and then put it together based on what feels right.
Mm-hmm. And Sir Brownie, when you play the bass, I know the bass parts are very important in Jamaican music.
Yeah.
So the first question would be, in other bands, if you picked certain songs, are there songs where they just tell you to come up with the bass part, or do they have specific bass parts for you to play?
Well, if it is a creative situation or a recording session, most times I'm allowed to create the bass line. And for me to do that, I love to hear the melody of the song. I love to know what the song is about. I mean, there are times when there are no singers in the studio. Like sometimes I'm working with Dean Fraser, and Dean said, okay, we want to do 3 rhythms for such and such an artist. Maybe 3 different artists, but they're not in Jamaica, and he has to start the project. And we'll just come up with a progression, know the optimum key for the artist. And then I just listen to the progression, listen to the chords. Sometimes I contribute to that. I say, okay, let's use these chords. Is it a minor mode we want to use or a major? And just create the line, just listen to it and just hear what the line sounds like that complements the feel. But the best part for me is when the singer is in the studio and I can hear the melody and then see how the song starts to structure. And then say, okay, that's the chord, that's okay, major 7, major 7, whatever. That's what's happening. And then the drummer starts giving a beat.
Mm-hmm. No.
I get that beat, I start to hear the rhythm of the line. Am I still there?
We lost your video.
Yeah.
We're hearing you. What?
We can hear, but you can't see him.
Okay. Yeah, but essentially, that's it. If in a band situation, like for instance, the Brownie Bunch that Robert mentioned, that's myself and my brothers, we get together and we all just create. You know, we just start an idea and then watch it organically come together. And, I write a couple of songs myself, and that's how it happens. Just hear a melody, and then just start compositing everything. Just all the parts just start coming, or I say, out of the cosmic, like divine inspiration, and just put it together. Sometimes I've been falling a vibes, and I'm thinking about a particular idea, and meditate on it for a while, and then after a couple of minutes, bam! Here's a melody. Whoa, okay, I grab my guitar. Oh, here are the chords. Yeah. Okay, here's the bass line. And it just mushrooms like that. And
So,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what would you say are your top 3 favorite bass lines that you created?
Wow. There was one called All in the Same Boat, where I used to listen to Larry Graham and Bootsy Collins. So I was into Latin as a young bassist. So within the reggae community now, I was known as, they used to call me Slappy Boo, because the first thing when I take up the bass and went. So Freddie McGregor had this song. He went to England with, and my brother was a musical director for him. And they came back with this song, All in the Same Boat, and he said to me, Glenn, it's you I want to play this. And it had some slapping and popping in there. And it was really a cool groove, you know. So that's one, All in the Same Boat. And also one of our original composition, Break of Dawn. That was written by my brother. That's another one.
Break of Dawn?
Break of Dawn, yes. As a matter of fact, that's not released yet. We're just getting ready to release that one now.
Oh, okay.
In recent times now, what's the name of that song again, Robert, with Mortimer?
Who?
Mortimer, I think is the title of the album. Title of his
album. Oh, Mortimer, Misery. Misery.
Huh? Misery.
Was it Misery? Yes.
What's the other one? One that's the title of that. But Misery also, but the title.
I have to look at. I'm looking it up. I'm looking up the.
Okay, I'm back here now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said top 3 because it's gone again, Marjorie.
Gone again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what about with Ziggy Marley? Are there any songs there that you?
Cosmic.
Cosmic.
Yeah. Yeah, Cosmic. And there's also another one that's called Don't Go Nowhere. No, not that one. Beautiful Mother Nature. I play that on an acoustic bass. Not double bass, but acoustic bass. And it's not reggae, you know, but I like the sound and the feel of it.
Mm-hmm. And were you influenced by any of the New Orleans bass players?
I can't think of any of them now by name. Can you run some names by me?
Or the older guy? I mean, I know, well, George Porter.
Guys. Who?
George Porter.
Oh, yes. See? Yeah, George Porter. I didn't even realize he was from New Orleans, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes,
but,
sir.
I grew up listening to more like Stanley Clark, Ron Carter, of course, Ray Brown. That man groove in the pocket is serious.
But now, did they help you with the Jamaican music groove? I mean, they were more for me walking bass lines.
Yeah, but well, look, what I learned from these brothers was how to play in the pocket. Whatever they're playing, don't care how fast the swing is, what the beat is, the bebop. I always observe the bass player. It's like they always kind of just had the thing like this. That's how they're just holding it together, you know. So yeah, for the fun, for the flares and thing now, stand the clock, because as a young man, when you're hearing now the fusion between the old and what was new then stand the clock is that for me. And then one night a brother came to me while I was working in the hotels on the North Coast doing the hotel scene and said, Glenn, when you finish playing tonight, that time we used to have cassettes. So when you finish playing tonight, listen to this. And I heard Jack of Asturias. And I said, oh my Lord. First, I couldn't believe that Portrait of Tracy was actually played on the bass.
Right.
So, you know, but there are lots of young musicians that I still listen to, you know. And I learn everything that I listen to, I learn something from them. But the American scene was always a great influence on Jamaican music. You know, from the ska coming right up, you know. We used to do what was the R&B of the day and the soul songs of the day. We took them and we made them into reggae. And then you had some bass players in those early days who also influenced me because I saw how they treated those songs. There was a period where it was mostly just 1/5, you know, 1/3, do 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 doom 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 do dim doom, do 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 doom in the rocksteady era. And then came along a man named Family Man Aston Barrett. And the melody started rolling out, and I said, okay, here we go. I'm back into my jazz mode now. You know, so
you know, it's interesting when you say Family Man and his brother. I would listen to some of those old Bob songs, and it so much reminded me of New Orleans second line, the way they interacted between each other, you know. And I was like, yeah, this is a groove. That's real.
Who started me on the New Orleans field was a brother named Peter Ashbourne. I used to play for Peter Ashbourne. We did commercials and stuff like that. We call them FM gigs. And sometimes some show music. And then Peter would expose me to some of that New Orleans stuff. And that's how I really started getting into it. And then when I was playing for Monty, there was a drummer from New Orleans also. And that cat could play some things, man. It's crazy. and you know, man, I don't know if you noticed that Monty loves that stuff, especially with that jumping. Taking me right into Jamaica, into the Borough beat, you know. So I relate to Ben when saying, oh, what we have here is not much different from New Orleans, but then it's kind of the same family, you know, taking the journey from the continent, so they bring some of the stuff with them.
Right, it's all Africa.
All African, man. All African. When I went to Africa the first time and I went into the town and going to these little pubs and on the sidewalk and hearing them play, I said, oh, that's why, because how we tune the bass for reggae, that low frequency, predominantly 60 hertz pumping at you, that's exactly the way they are playing. And then when you listen to them doing some of the highlights of where they're putting in now, some of the mid-range, so you can hear the melodic sound, especially the South African players, I said, cool. But when you hear the traditional music that they're playing on the, like, not xylophone, what they call it again, it's like big gourd, right? And it's set up like a piano. But the frequencies are the same. You hear the top end of it because it's percussive. But when you listen to the overtone of it, it's that rich bass sound. And that's a part of it. I think it's like we're feeling the vibration of the earth coming out in that sound. So that's a key thing. And that's what helped to shape my sound too. Because I like to hear all the character, all the harmonics of the string. I don't just want to hear, I want to hear the tone. Everywhere I go, I must hear the tone of the instrument. And that always stuck in my mind.
Okay.
That influence.
All right. So, Robert, we're talking about groove and tone and the bass part. How much do you allow the bass player, when you're going to record a song, do you have everything mapped out, or do you give each individual a chance to just create something?
Oh, you mean when I'm doing one of my songs?
Yes.
I usually leave it up to the individual and then kind of take it from there. I like to see what people hear or what people try to contribute first. Then I tweak it if necessary, pretty much. I'll have like a basic idea or groove that I want, like mainly drum parts and sometimes a bass line. But I like to say, all right, this is what I have, but let me hear what you have. There are songs that I specifically, like I remember a song for one of my projects that's not released yet, dedicated to my mom. I had that played the bass on it. I had the bass line already. You know, I recorded it on keyboard because most of my productions are, how do I put it now? It's not a live band setting.
Okay.
So I end up, doing most of the parts. And then so I'll get like that to over the bass line on it. So this particular song, I had the bass line and everything, but it didn't sound good with keyboard bass. So I asked him to play it over to get that live feel. So like in those situations, I'll have the part, and even though the part was there, he still did him. You know what I mean? He played the notes, but it was still not just the notes, if you follow what I mean.
Right.
The
So
feel.
Yeah. And then he added some of his what would I call it? His, flair to it, and things like that. But typically I that's a one-off situation. Typically I'll have a song and I'll say, yo, give me a line. And then, because there's another song that we had that we did live in the studio. And so we got the drummer and everybody in the studio, and Daddy again was on bass. And I said, just play whatever you feel. And, he went through a couple of ideas until he found something that sit well with the drummer. So in different situations and songs, have different approach. I have a different approach to each. But typically, I like to hear what each member comes up with first, and then we'll take it from there, rather than dictating the parts every time. Because a lot of the times, too, I like the input, because I don't think all my ideas are great, if you get me. And sometimes you need input from other sources to make a project whole.
Okay. What about you, Hunter?
Well, I'll tell you what, particularly for this album we did here, the producers asked me to send them some songs, and I went into the studio and it was my acoustic guitar and just played out maybe 30, 40 songs. And they chose from the songs to make the album, So we went in and they played all the instruments. They really got the idea of New Orleans and Jamaica and the whole, the history of that sound, the music. So, and me from New Orleans, I come in and sing like I sing, or give the New Orleans flair on top of all this beautiful reggae music, So that's how we approached it, And these guys were like, they were so on point to to get that idea across, and that's why for this project I'm so proud of it, because of knowing the history of the music, and being able to get with some really professional musicians out of Jamaica and producers to make the sound really complete, you know. So that's how we approach this particular album here. And I'm gonna tell you some of the guys we work with, because I have to give a shout out to, you know, and condolences also to Barry O'Hare. I know if you may know Barry. Barry played on the album and engineered some of the music, and also Suzanne Couch. She did the background of the background music, and also she prepared this great meal and the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know. So
you can't be Susan on that taste of food.
hey, man, I have a captain in these photos, and I hold them dear to me. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, I had never met none of these folks. You know, and they had made me feel like we were at home. We knew each other forever, and put this project down. You know, actually, the producers are Brian and Wayne Jobson and Neil Case. They have their production company based over Babylon. You know, and again, they understood the you know, the history, and then when my approach came, they was impressed, because they would work with other, you know, American artists who are trying to come to do a reggae album and try to sound like a Jamaican or whatever. To me, that's kind of you know, for me, it's embarrassing, for one, if you didn't try to talk like, you know, in patois, and it shows kind of a disrespect for me. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to do a song, do it, you know, in your style. You know what I mean? That's what I did with this project. You know what I mean? Because I love reggae music. You know what I'm saying? Again, I would never even been into music if it wasn't for reggae and Bob Marley in particular. You know, and the Wailers. Without question, Peter Tosh. Oh my God. You know, what can be said? You know, and what they have brought to the world, and the sacrifices that they've made to make this music international, you know, and it is what it is, you know, you can't deny it. And definitely, I have max respect to Jamaica and Jamaican artists, and you know, y'all in my prayers, bro. 'Cause I see what's going on down there with the situation and stuff. So, and everywhere in the world for that matter. So, you know, we're gonna keep it on 100 with this, you know. So yeah.
Right. So, Brownie, we'll finish out with you. And what are your thoughts as you reflect back over the different decades, from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s? When did you actually start playing?
Late 60s. I've actually started late. I was into a sound system. I had a small sound system, and I used to go out and play a lot. So I was listening to a lot of music from Cuba, from America,
Right.
all the roots music here.
So when you think back to, you know, different, how the music has changed and evolved.
Yeah, man, it's just the vibes at the time of the times too. Because as a young man, before I start playing, I was listening to Rasta music, Nyabingi music, because the community I lived in, there was camp, a Rasta camp nearby, Counters, maybe I've heard of him. And my father used to tune into Cuba, so I was growing up hearing a lot of music. And then the local music, the Jamaican music, was, including ska, was a takeoff from the swing music and the R&B American music. And then I watched that change when they slowed down the beat and started rocksteady. And I think that still is one of the most unique sound of Jamaica. And then it changes again when the technology changed with it, and you had a younger generation wanting to experiment and express themselves. So the changes, I just learned to adapt to it. There are some things that I know just would work or would last because it didn't have any soul to it. but again, it's part of the transition. And then we get into the reggae, where the riff was different again. And somebody pointed out to me, if I related this, the changing of the sounds to the social order of the day, because they say when we change from ska to rock steady, everybody kind of felt more easy now and liberated, because even the scatterlights, they were like the forefront of the ska beat and the dance. And every time the sound changed, the dance changed with it. And he said to me, if you realize that the people were more relaxed, thinking that they're truly independent, and about the same time in the early 60s, coming up, we changed to rock steady. So everybody started rocking steady like this now. The dance is going like this. Everybody is now rocking steady. The dance. Then it goes to the reggae. And everybody starts feeling happy again of the next political transition. So then start doing this. And the rest will be and they say, oh, people start feeling happy again. In the dance hall. Not the place that we go to, the sound of the music. And then that's beautiful. And of course, one of my brothers dominated that scene for a while. So I just rolled with it. And what you have to do, you can't fight it. The musicians that I observed that used to fight against the changes, they couldn't identify. Mm-hmm. The key thing that I observed is they couldn't dance the thing. And I love to dance. so each time the thing, because I have to feel where the rock of the line is going. So I just change with it, you know? And then understanding the R&B influence, and I used to listen to James Jamerson a lot, you know, so I know that Motown vibes. And so when they want to do a song that has that kind of feel, I know how to put the rocks to the line and use some of the colors from what Jameson was doing. And that's how the whole thing, you know, just organically grow. And then the African sound came in again. The African sound is dominant in the dance hall. So the Rasta beat influenced the rock steady with it. 1, 2, check it, check it, check it, check it. Aketa used to play with the rock steady beat, and it can be up tempo, it can be in the 80s, or it can be in the 87 BPM or 65 BPM, depending on the mode of the melody or the color of the chords. So just on learning about that and learning to change with it. And of course, we retain that so we can bring it even now where the music has changed again, because we are now listening to what a lot of the American kids playing. And we have come up with this thing named trap, and I tell them all the while, don't call it reggae. Don't call it rocksteady, because it's not. Somewhere between, what they call it, Robert Trap and
we call it dancehall trap. Trap is an American.
Yeah, come out of Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so dancehall tempo.
Yeah. Yeah. Call it dancehall trap now, because it's like a fusion of Jamaican and American trap music, but it's nobody likes it. None of the pioneers in Jamaican music like the song now, but it's what the kids are doing.
But there you go, it's the kids, you know, and that's what they love. And I remember in the early days, in my younger days, a generation was complaining about the change of ska from the blue beat. They complain. And when you change to rocksteady, I hear my eldest brother complain, and then it changed. But it's because they're not used to that vibe. So a generation will bring about a new energy to the thing. What we ask is that the integrity of the culture be maintained. Whatever you do, you do whatever you want, but
okay,
enable it properly.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate that. I think we're going to close out on that note, and we want to certainly thank Robert and Glenn Brownie and Ben E. Hunter
Respect, respect.
Yes, sir. And Delphio Marsalis signing off. I don't know if our host is going to rejoin us. There she is. Okay.
Hey, Delphio.
Muted. You're muted.
Unmute your mic, Sheila. Your mic muted.
All right. Thank you, everybody. That was an amazing panel.
Good time.
But I need to tell Delphio something. I have to say this to the music. There's a song that I wrote called
Old man.
The Elephant Speaks.
Oh.
And I always said to myself, what trombone? Because a trombone melody. I dreamt the song. It's a trombone melody. And I said, Delphio, that's sweet soul. So maybe one of these days I'll link up with you and see if it's possible to bring it to reality.
It's called The Elephant Speaks.
The Elephant Speaks.
Okay. What?
Very slow, moody song.
Send it to me if we can. Let's do that. Yes, sir. I'd love to play it. All right, cool.
That's what's up.
Rastafari love.
Bless up, bless up. Yes, I. Selassie, I.
All right, y'all.
Okay.
Bye, Sheila.
Sheila, you're muted.
Bye, Sheila.
Like, you're muted, Sheila.